Go. Recording in progress. Ready?
Yeah, I just got that.
Great. It is mid-September. This is the Friends and Brothers podcast. I'm Rob, and this is Marcus. We created Friends and Brothers as a channel to discuss all topics concerning modern men. Our mission is to change the lives and be a resource for you and to find your inner Yelp. Thanks for tuning in as we get ramped up. If you like our podcast, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. Today's topic, we're going to talk about overcoming challenges. So life happens, but the most important thing is to remember is to keep that vision and keep getting back on track or back on the wagon, as if you will. Marcus, being a gym owner, what
Yes,
have you experienced any challenges as a gym owner?
That's a fabulous question, Rob. I could go through a myriad of examples of where overcoming challenges is a great topic to discuss. I wanted to really start with three different parts of that, though.
Okay.
Would be people, a task, and then situational.
Right.
And I'm just thinking and spitballing here, but as I'm talking about this, so overcoming challenges as it relates to people. Now, we all have obviously different communication styles, different skill sets, personalities, and all that. What I will say oftentimes is you have to be, this is just from my own perspective as a business owner in front of people every single day,
Right.
is that we have to be very cognizant of the audience that we're talking to or the people that we're talking to.
Your customers,
Yeah,
your clients, right?
potential customers, just people in general. These are obviously skills that you have to learn over years. Some people have them early on in life and learn them more easily than others. You get a lot of these from coaching, either through books or talking to people. But when it comes to, again, overcoming challenges in a people situation, if you don't mind, I'd like to share some examples as we
Please.
go. Okay. So people, so let's just say you have somebody who's being difficult in a situation that you really, my style is very direct.
Mm-hmm.
And over the years, I had to learn how to not be so direct, but at the same time, get the point across in how I'm going to make this terminology in a compassionate, empathetic kind of a way. And what I'm sharing with you is this is like, I don't know that if all men are this way, but I think that a lot of us are built to a particular way. It's like we want to get the answer and we want to have something resolved as we're having the dialogue. Like we want to get it done, right? And that way we can move on to the next task. So in a people situation, that's a little bit more dynamic and fluid, right? Because you're having to communicate what you're trying to say. The other person is listening to you, trying to fill out that. So anyway, from an example standpoint, I have hundreds of members and I've worked with thousands of clients over the years. And oftentimes it's when you get into this conversation with somebody who you're trying to say, I'd really like you to do it this way because it's going to be something that I really require you to do in my business to be a member of what it is that I'm doing or not. And then oftentimes that receiving person ends up getting offended, to potentially taking that information and going with it and being okay with it. Or three, just kind of letting it go in one ear and out the other ear. So again, overcoming challenges for me, a lot of times is going to come down to communication styles. Like I've always been, and I don't know how you are, Rob, but I mean, I've always been a real student of people. So like as a salesperson for 30 something years, working in corporate environments, even doing what I do on a day-to-day basis now, I like to study people, their behaviors, their habits, and how they communicate. So it's funny, and I start to giggle because you can always watch and feel out what's going on as you're talking to somebody. So I don't know if that, and again, I can throw people out there as far as names, but that's just an initial thing that came to mind because I run into that all the time.
So how do you overcome those challenges then with people?
with that, I will say a lot of the challenge, and I looked up the term challenge in the dictionary, right? So as far as looking at a challenge, it's basically, I'm going to whittle this down to, you're basically coming up with a way of putting a line in the sand, or you're dueling with somebody. That's
Right.
that premise of what the challenge is, and how a lot of times I'll leave it overcome it. That's coming from you. So the challenge is coming from you, really. And what I've had to do is, one, just potentially sometimes just let it go and manage myself, because at the end of the day, it's me who's having that challenge. Or two, find whatever avenue best relates to the person that I'm trying to communicate the information to, that it gets through. Now, sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes you have, like I said, sometimes you're just going to have folks that are,
They just want to complain.
yeah, they're
They're
just
not even there to have a solution.
their
Their solution is just to get it out.
Yeah, they're resistant to hearing anything you have to say. It's like the old adage, you're talking to a brick wall.
Right, right.
So that would be two. It's like, it's kind of like, you got to know you're the person that's having the challenge. So how do you address it? And then two, in that, knowing that the person that you're speaking to or about, in reference to, is, what you got to find that way in which they're going to hear what it is that you have to say.
Yeah. It's funny that you talk about the people and the communication, because it really brings to light. I mean, it's so true. I totally agree with you, because how we communicate with in my case, with my athletes, right? They complain, oh, I'm injured because I'm doing it wrong. Okay, we'll do it this way. And then they continue doing it the old way, because they're trying to put a square peg through a round hole, and they don't know why why they're stuck there, right? And which is the definition of insanity: doing the same thing a million times, expecting it to the result to be different, right? But it really is that how we communicate, and in that communication with others, it's one thing I've learned both in my professional and coaching worlds, is just listening more to the other person, right? And that's how it can resolve so many different people or communication challenges that we face. But it's a huge challenge. It's people in communication, right? You get different people with different backgrounds, people, men and women, or whatever the case is, different cultures, different geographies. There's always you could say a difference or a conflict of sorts, and if we just listen to each other, we can maybe avoid some of those challenges.
100%. Yeah. The funny thing is, though, both you and I being coaches in different capacities, I will tell you that can be challenging as well, because I have a very specific style, but it's a learned style. Because I will say that oftentimes, like you were just talking about, fitting a square peg into a round hole, you have the folks, they want you to coach them, and they want to succeed, but they're so resistant to what you're doing. And you just basically want to say, can you please just do what I'm telling you to do?
Yes. Well, and that's when with my athletes, when they come on board, and we also do this at least a second time throughout the year. So we do it multiple times a year. I have an assessment. I have them each do an assessment, and it helps them write out their goals and objectives for the year. But one of my expectations for them that is always communicated and reiterated is, you need to be coachable. So you could have someone who's really primed to, let's say, go pro or something, but if they're not coachable, they're not going to meet their objectives. They're not going to meet those goals that they have, because they have to be coachable. Otherwise, you're just wasting your money on me, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're Sisyphus. You're rolling the ball uphill and it's rolling back on you constantly throughout time. Who the hell wants to do that?
Right.
So I don't. If you want to stick here, we can stick here. But then the second one of that was like a task.
Yes, I was just going to go there.
So overcoming a challenge and a task, and I'm trying to think of specific task. What I was relating that to, in any, if you want to think in terms of exercise sciences or in physical coaching, those kinds of things, it's, picking something up from point A and bringing it to point B. I guess if you want to think in terms of that kind of a task. Are there
It's as
other
basic
tasks
of a
that you,
task as it gets.
well, yeah, I mean, pick things up and put things down, but
Yeah.
are there other tasks that you would think of? Maybe that'll ring a bell here.
In my work life, there's tasks that need to be done, but I can probably draw a more realistic example or more relative example, and that's just at home, and with the kids, where, okay, we had a challenge of getting the floors cleaned every night. We have 3 dogs. I have 3 kids that are currently now 4, 3, and going on 2 years old. With those 3 dogs and the kids on the floor, it's vital that our floors are pretty clean.
Yeah.
And we were, aside from picking up the toys every night and doing the dishes and cleaning up the place so that we can, run through that tornado the next morning. One of the challenges we had was the floors, and how we resolved it. We ended up getting a robot vacuum.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's a simple fix.
Yeah, that's a great solution.
We don't mop the floors all the time, right? And it would help, but I mean, our robot vacuum is full every morning. It's mostly dog hair,
Yeah.
but there's dirt that you just don't see. And we love the floors in the house because you can't see every little nook and cranny of dirt or rub or whatever. It's just the way the floors are. We really like them, but it's just such a godsend of help. It saves time every night, but it just makes sure it gets the job. It cleans the floors so that our kids are healthy, right? But that's been a big challenge. It was a big challenge for a good 8 months when we moved into our current house here, and we've had the vacuum over a year now, and it's just every day. I'm still, after a year of using this vacuum, I'm just amazed at like how much it picks up.
So you found a technological advancement that solved a problem for you. That was a solution that was real easy to take care of all this kind of stuff, as opposed to having you and your spouse doing all this work all the time.
So, I mean, the floors itself, if I were to sweep the floors every night or do the dry Swiffer on the floor every night, that would take me a good 30 minutes at least. Yeah. So
you need that 30 minutes for other things.
For everything, anything else, right?
Well, that's what I want the guys to understand is, like, I'm sure that there are the guys that are out there that have that same situation. So,
or similar, like, just, remove the complexity of these mundane tasks, right? Yeah. And how do we do it better? So it's not that, like, someone I spoke with a long time ago, they had declared, like, that they're just lazy, and theoretically they're lazy, so to speak, but they're just creating efficiencies in their life and in their tasks so that they can enjoy the other things that they really want to spend time on, right? Yeah. So yes, this task stuff, I can do the dishes, or I can hire a maid to do the dishes for me, but why don't I create something that, where I don't have to hire a maid and spend all that money, but also, overcome that by figuring something else out, right? Yeah. That I can be happy with.
Give yourself an extra 30 minutes a day or hour a day.
That's 2.5 hours. Well, times 7, really, it's not just 5 days a week, but it's 7, so that's 3.5 hours a week that I can, do a lot more things that are productive for me or for my family or whatever it is. Right.
Right. Yeah. It's funny. I want to use that too, from a business perspective. So for myself, when you're going through, an environment where, like, again, you mentioned that I'm a gym owner, so I own a gym. I don't have a cleaning crew. I have to go through and I put my hands on everything to keep everything clean and picked up. But I will tell you again, I don't have the kids that are there, but I have adult kids.
Yeah, and they don't put their stuff back.
They don't. Yeah, and
they don't re-rack.
Well, and this goes back to that when we're talking about overcoming challenges.
Yeah.
It's the people, and then, when you're talking about yourself, now I'm going to use me as the example. Is yes, I look at whatever it is. In this case, if it's my business and I'm having people come in to use the equipment, those kinds of things, this is my house. I want you to treat my house with respect. That means you're treating me with respect. So when you're walking around and you're just throwing stuff around, so if you were to come to my place of work, my business, that's the one thing that people compliment, not only me, but the space and the people that are there, because I've worked with the people on a consistent basis, and they know that, all right, these are the standards that we want to hold. And that's let's pick up the stuff. Let's put things away. Let's make sure things are findable and able for the ladies as much as the guys to do. So people and tasks. The other one I wanted to come up with was situation. So overcoming a situation. And I can tell you,
I think this is different because the first two are challenges that you can mitigate before they even happen, right? Like the vacuum, right? Like, I can mitigate that, and I did mitigate that very easily, right? Situational activities are things that we cannot control. They're challenges that we cannot control.
Yeah.
Right. So for, kids, they break an arm, go to the hospital, need to go to the hospital. That's a situational challenge when, if I'm in the middle of a meeting, I got to stop everything, right?
Right.
One example, but I
No, that's
think
exactly right. Well, let's use your triathlon training and programming. So you got a schedule to keep that you're trying to train for, and then something hits the fan.
Yeah, torn calf muscle.
Or weather, or
or weather.
We've had
weather.
Those are uncontrollable situations. So what do you do in that situation? I think many times, I know that you're going to speak to this, but when it comes to stuff like that, it's, you're going to have to step back and you got to think, okay, is it something that is an emergency that I've got to jump into immediately and solve?
Mm-hmm.
If not, then what I'm tasked to do in this situation, how do I get to where I want to go based on what my plan was for that day or that morning or whatever I had scheduled, and then be adaptable.
And that's an important word to reference, in adaptability, right? And so as a triathlon coach, I do train athletes for half Ironman, full Ironman. So for those unaware, a half Ironman is a 1.2 mile open water swim, followed by a 56-mile bike, and the half marathon 13.1 mile run. Full marathon is twice that, right? 2.4 miles, 112 mile bike, and then a full marathon run, all in, within 17 hours. Otherwise, you can cross the finish line but you don't get a medal. So there's a million things that can go wrong on race day, and your first-time Ironman athlete is gonna have a million jitters in their stomach, right? Because you can't control the weather from happening. You can't control if your bike is going to get a flat tire in the middle of the race, or at mile 50, where you're still going to have 70, 60 something miles to go. So you have to, but what you can do, and what I work into the training plans for my athletes, is working through how you're going to manage that, right? It's all about just managing yourself and being adaptable. So train, if your race is going to be, have a lot of hills for the bike, go train your bike time as much as you can, with hills, right? So the more you're mitigating that, so where the activity, might have uncontrollable challenges for you, you can still mitigate those challenges by being prepared as much as possible. So I'm going to bring a flat kit, I'm going to bring extra air for the tubes, for the bike. What I have my athletes do, though, is during race week, one of their training plan activities is not to swim, bike, or run, but it's to actually write out their race. And that includes writing out what happens, writing out what are the things that can happen wrong, and how are you going to react to it. Because there are so many athletes, and it's really sad to see, they go into this race, they're expecting the perfect race, and there is no such thing as the perfect race. The perfect race is one where you adapt as much as possible to what happens on the day, and you get through it with a smile on your face. That's the perfect race, right? And so, when you write it out, it's mentally in your head to say, okay, if this happens, I know what to do now. I'm not going to freak out. And when people freak out in the middle of an Ironman, it's already a downward spiral.
I'm sure.
Like I've seen it, like by witnessing it, while on the course, or while just, just spectating, right? And like the smallest things even can set people off. And if you're not focused on just remaining calm and thinking, how do I plan for this, or what am I going to do to mitigate this, or get through it? you'll be fine, right?
Yeah, you're using a great
it's a
tool.
great mental exercise that I have them go through, and it goes through what are you going to be doing when you run across the finish line, right? And going into the training plans, because it ends in a run, it's like like during my runs before my Ironman, I'm like, I'm already thinking like, how am I going to finish the run? So it makes me smile automatically, right? Because I knew I was going to be, because going into an Ironman finish, I want to be smiling. That's a big accomplishment.
So you're using a couple of tools called visualization and then scripting. So you're writing out and you're visualizing where you're going to be and how things are going to go, and then through that kind of plan for it to a certain degree.
Yes.
Yeah. No, that's great.
So that's how I overcome challenges, or I get folks to overcome challenges in the situational capacity.
It's situational.
Situational.
Yeah, situational. Yeah. I don't even know if I can back that up or come on top of that, because that's perfect. The only thing is along those lines, what ends up happening though when we're scripting or visualizing, and then it's completely off the rails. Then you plan for it, you're like, wait a minute, there's none of this that I was expecting. So
even better than but
no, I know that.
You're hoping for the best, you plan for the worst, right?
But that goes back to what I was saying, though, is when it comes to overcoming challenges, at the end of the day, I feel pretty confident in saying that it really ends up coming down to you as the person. And to your point is that do you have the appropriate amount of preparedness through your scripting, visualization, breathing techniques, whatever those kinds of things are going to be, to get you past that challenge or the duel that you've got in front of you, whether it's people-oriented, task-oriented, or situational.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's you who's got to accomplish that goal or that challenge and overcome. It's not the other person. Yeah,
it's your objective.
Yeah. Right.
So yeah, I think you mentioned also, like, we learned, a few different variations. You have the 5 Ps, some call it the 6 Ps, and that's, proper planning prevents his poor performance, right? So we can't control everything, but we can control how we react to them.
Sometimes, yeah, we can. We would hope that we can control those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't know what else on here we've got to go through. I know that we had a couple other things on that from a topic standpoint that we want to review.
Yeah. So let's close this one out. So today we talked about overcoming challenges. Life happens, but getting back on track and staying on track is what's really the important thing. If we get bogged down, focused on what went wrong, then we're not going to reach our objectives, right? We talked through a few examples of different types of challenges, that being people, task-oriented challenges, and situational. But at the end of the day, it comes down to communication and being prepared for what could happen as much as we can, but accepting that there's things that we can't control.
Absolutely.
Good. All right, everyone, have a good day, and we'll be talking to you soon. And don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button to Friends and Brothers. Cheers.